The woman in the bright red convertible thought she owned the world. She thought her designer clothes, her mansion, and her husband's bank account made her untouchable. She looked at the man standing on the sidewalk in a cheap, plain suit and saw nothing but trash. She saw someone beneath her, someone she could crush just for sport. She screamed at him to move. She threatened him. She even called in a private security team to hurt him. She thought she was a predator, and he was the prey. But she was wrong, dead wrong, because the man in the cheap suit wasn't a loiterer, and he wasn't afraid. 30 minutes later, the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood would be on her knees, begging the stranger to save her life. She mocked the wrong man. And what happened next didn't just humble her. It destroyed her entire empire. Before we dive into this interesting story, kindly tell us where you are watching from in the comment. Also subscribe to this channel for more stories. It was a blistering Tuesday morning in Silver Creek. This wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a fortress for the elite. It was a kind of place where the grass was manicured with scissors, and neighbors would sue you for painting your fence the wrong shade of white. Silence was the most expensive commodity here, and the residents paid millions to keep the outside world away. Into this world of quiet luxury drove a gray Dennet sedan. It looked like a scar on a perfect face. The car pulled over the curb on a public street, right in front of the largest mansion on the block. The engine sputtered and died. The driver stepped out. He was a man of average height, wearing a navy suit that had seen better days. He didn't look like he belonged in Silver Creek. He looked tired. He leaned against his car, crossed his arms, and checked his watch. He waited. The peace didn't last long. A bright red convertible roared down the street, engine revving unnecessarily loud. The driver was Mrs. van der Hoven. She was a self-proclaimed queen of the Homeowners Association, a woman who had once called the police on a mailman for walking too slowly. She saw the gray sedan. She saw the man in the cheap suit, and she saw red. Mrs. van der Hoven didn't just walk. She marched. Her heels clicked against the pavement like gunshots in the quiet morning air. She slammed her car door shut, not caring about the noise. Her target was a man leaning against a gray sedan. To her, he was a stain on her perfect view. "You!" she screamed, her voice echoing off the marble walls of her estate. "Get this ugly piece of junk away from my driveway. Now!" The man looked up slowly from a file he was reading. He didn't flinch at her volume. He didn't smile, and he didn't frown. He just looked at her with eyes that had seen far worse things than an angry socialite. "I'm legally parked, ma'am," he said. His voice was low, calm, and steady. This was the wrong answer. Mrs. van der Hoven wasn't used to the word no. In her world, money bought obedience. She stomped closer, invading his personal space, pointing a manicured finger directly at his chest. "Do you have any idea who I am?" she hissed. "Do you know who my husband is? Richard van der Hoven owns this town. He owns the bank. He practically owns the police force. And I own this street." The man simply closed his file and placed it gently on the hood of his car. Rechecked his watch again. "I'm just waiting for a colleague," he replied, ignoring her threats. "I'll be gone soon." "You're loitering," she spat, looking him up and down with disgust. "You're lowering the property value just by standing here. Look at that suit. It's pathetic. You clearly don't belong here. Go back to whatever gutter you crawled out of." She waited for him to get angry. She wanted a fight. She wanted him to yell back, so she could justify what she was about to do. But the man just stood there in silence. It was a trap, a test of character, and she was failing it miserably. When shouting didn't work, she turned to her favorite weapon, intimidation. She pulled out her gold-plated smartphone and shoved the camera lens into the man's face. "I'm recording you," she announced, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "I'm going to send this to the community board. I'm going to post this online. Everyone will see the creep lurking outside my house. You'll be banned from the entire county." The man didn't react to the camera. He simply turned slightly, looking past her at the massive mansion rising behind the gates. "Nice house," he observed dryly. "Big. Must take a lot of upkeep." "Don't you look at my house," she screamed, her voice cracking. "Don't you dare look at my property." She swiped on her phone and dialed a number. She put it on speaker, so he could hear. Security? It's Mrs. Vanderhoven. There's a stalker outside my gate. He's threatening me. He looks dangerous. He might have a weapon. Send the team. Now! She hung up and looked at him with triumph. You're done, she laughed. My private security team is on the way. They don't ask questions. They used to be mercenaries. They just remove trash. The man finally looked at her. Really looked at her. For the first time, there was a hint of pity in his eyes. You should go inside, ma'am, he said softly. It's going to get complicated out here. You don't want to be part of this. Oh, I'm staying right here, she sneered. I want to watch you get thrown to the curb. I want to hear you beg. Minutes later, a black SUV with yellow flashing lights screeched around the corner. It pulled up onto the curb, blocking the gray sedan. Two men jumped out. They were massive, wearing tactical vests and carrying heavy batons. These weren't neighborhood watch volunteers. They were hired muscle. They looked like they enjoyed hurting people. That's him, Mrs. Vanderhoven yelled, pointing an accusatory finger. He threatened to break into my house. He threatened my life. Get him off my property. The lead guard, a man with a scar running down his cheek, walked up to the man in the suit. He slapped his baton into his open palm. A clear threat. Sir, the guard grunted. You need to leave. Right now. The man didn't move. He stood his ground, planting his feet firmly. This is a public road, he stated calmly. I have business here. I'm not moving until I'm done. The guard stepped closer, invading the man's space until they were nose to nose. I don't care about the road. Mrs. Vanderhoven pays my salary. She wants you gone. We can do this the easy way, where you walk away, or the hard way, where we drag you away. Mrs. Vanderhoven cheered from the driveway, clapping her hands like a child at a circus. The hard way. Use the hard way. Teach him a lesson. The man sighed, a look of resignation crossing his face. He reached into his jacket pocket slowly. Hands! The guard shouted, raising his baton. Let me see your hands. The man froze. He held his empty hands up. I'm just checking the time, he said. My friends are late. We're not your friends, pal, the guard snarled. He grabbed the man's arm, attempting to twist it behind his back in a painful submission hold. But the man didn't buckle. He didn't fight back, but he didn't bend. He was like a rock. The guard pulled and strained, but the man in the cheap suit stood immovable. He stared directly into the guard's eyes, his gaze turning cold as ice. Let go, he whispered. This is your last warning. The standoff was broken by the wail of sirens. Blue and red lights flooded the street, reflecting off the polished marble of the mansion walls. Mrs. Vanderhoven's face lit up with glee. Finally, she shouted, the real police. Now you're going to jail. I'm going to make sure they lock you up for assault. Two police cruisers screeched to a halt, boxing in the security truck and the red convertible. Four officers jumped out, their hands hovering near their holsters. They ran toward the group with urgency. Officers! Mrs. Vanderhoven yelled, waving them over. Arrest him. He assaulted my security guard. He's a stalker. He's been harassing me for an hour. The security guard quickly let go of the man's arm and stepped back, raising his hands to look innocent. He was resisting. Officers. We were just removing a trespasser from Mrs. Vanderhoven. The police sergeant leading the group ignored the woman. He walked right past the security guards without even looking at them. He walked straight up to the man in the plain suit. The tension in the air was thick enough to choke on. Mrs. Vanderhoven smirked. Crossing her arms, she waited for the handcuffs. She waited for the humiliation. She wanted to see the man's face when he realized he had lost. The sergeant stopped 2 feet from the man. He stood tall, clicked his heels, and then he saluted. Sorry we're late, detective, the sergeant said loud and clear. Traffic was a nightmare coming out of the precinct. Mrs. Vanderhoven's smirk vanished instantly. Her face went pale, drained of all color. Detective, she whispered, the word feeling heavy on her tongue. The man in the suit finally reached into his jacket again. This time, nobody tried to stop him. He pulled out a leather wallet and flipped it open. A gold badge caught the sunlight, shining brighter than any of Mrs. Vanderhoven's jewelry. It read, Major Crimes Division. He wasn't a stalker. He wasn't a loiterer. He was Detective Marcus Miller, the lead investigator for the state's financial crimes unit. He walked past the terrified security guards, who were now backing away slowly. He walked right up to Mrs. Vanderhoven. The power dynamic had shifted completely. I tried to warn you, Marcus said. His voice was hard as steel. I told you to go inside. I told you it was going to get complicated. I was waiting for the warrant to clear. I didn't know, she stammered, trembling. You, look at your suit. You don't look like a detective. You look poor. That's the point, Marcus said. You only saw what you wanted to see. Now step aside. Mrs. Vanderhoven turned around just as the front door of her mansion opened. 2 more officers walked out. Between them was her husband, Richard. He was in handcuffs. He looked defeated. Aged 10 years in a single moment. His empire was crumbling before his eyes. Richard, she screamed, running toward him. What is happening? Tell them who we are. Marcus turned back to her. We know exactly who you are. Your husband has been stealing from his investors for 10 years. It's a Ponzi scheme, money laundering, wire fraud. We've been building this case for months. He gestured to her expensive car, her jewelry, and the massive house behind her. All of this, Marcus said, his voice cutting through the air, bought with stolen money. It's all evidence now. The cars, the house, the bank accounts. It's all frozen. You don't own the street anymore. You don't own anything. Mrs. Vanderhoven fell to her knees on the perfectly manicured grass. But we have a dinner party tonight, she sobbed, grasping at a life that no longer existed. You can't do this. Marcus looked down at her. You treated me like dirt because you thought I was poor, he said. You judge people by their clothes, by their cars. But respect isn't something you buy with stolen cash. It's something you earn. He signaled to the sergeant. Take them in. The security guards jumped back in their truck and fled, desperate to avoid being associated with the crime. Mrs. Vanderhoven watched her husband get shoved into the back of a police car. She looked at Marcus one last time, tears streaming down her face. She was begging now. Please, she sobbed. I have nothing else. Marcus opened the door to his gray sedan. You have your life, he said. Start over. And next time, try being kind. She learned the hard way. Wealth is temporary. Character is forever. She mocked the wrong man. And it cost her everything. Subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories.